My college education started with a lot of technical courses: calculus, chemistry, chemistry lab, physics. I didn't have a lot of liberal arts classes, and honestly, I dreaded having to take them eventually because they were core classes and a requirement to graduate. I knew I would have to take them, but they seemed like a complete waste of time. What is the point of reading what people hundreds or thousands of years ago thought? What difference does it make who fought with who in Europe in the 1700s? What will I really get out of reading incredibly long works of fiction printed in small fonts that seemingly take forever to complete a few pages? I think most technical people feel a similar sentiment. These endeavors are pretty useless. They're not furthering my knowledge. It's extremely unlikely that this information will ever be useful to me. And most importantly, this is a huge opportunity cost because I could be learning something useful right now. This was my mindset when I walked into my first day of philosophy my sophomore year of college. But luckily, I attended a liberal arts focused school that valued these types of classes. They considered these classes important and hired teachers who were knowledgeable in these fields and who loved their fields. On this first day, a small, unassuming man walked into the classroom, quietly set his briefcase down on the desk at the front of the room. He pulled out a small notebook and set it on a podium. And then he began a lecture on the deep, insightful wisdom of Kierkegaard and the rich imagery of Flannery O'Connor. I didn't feel like I was listening to an elderly man talk about long-dead Byzantine knowledge. Instead, the topics were as familiar and relevant as anything modern, and instead of seeing the professor as someone older and perhaps past his prime, I saw a deeply intelligent person that was perhaps more knowledgeable about something than I might ever be. This seemed very odd to me. I'd been in religion classes for years in Catholic school, which seemed tangentially like what I thought philosophy would be similar to. I'd taken history and English literature for years in high school. Philosophical writing was not unknown to me. So why did it suddenly seem exciting, interesting, and worthwhile? Reflecting on the experience, I thought of other times that I felt really excited or engaged about learning. Was there a common thread? The obvious answer, of course, is that the subject matter was the important thing. But here I had a situation that didn't fit with the obvious answer. It didn't take me long to realize the teacher had made the difference. Each similar experience was etched in my memory, and each teacher was someone I remembered, even when other more recent experiences were not as vivid. The teacher or professor really mattered, even more so than the subject. In fact, I would say my interest in the subject was more dictated by the teacher than the other way around, which was very counterintuitive. It was natural then to consider things outside of my school setting. What else was I passionate about? Where had the passion come from? Had I picked the things I cared about, or felt some natural inclination towards certain things? Or did I just have certain people who I had interacted with along the way, who, like some enormous gravitational force, had changed my trajectory due to their passion for a subject? You can guess based on the title of this episode which I think was the case. It wasn't always me deciding what I cared about. Often I got some help from others who were experts in their fields, passionate about what they were doing, who communicated their passion and made it clear to others why their subject is interesting and worth the time to invest in learning about it. I'm not sure why as humans we are so swayed by other people's passions, but honestly, I think this is one of the things that makes life so interesting. There are lots of interesting corollaries to this. If you think that your passions are naturally occurring and that you were born with them, this could really limit you. You might feel like you're not passionate about enough things or about anything, but it might just be that you haven't been exposed to the people that could help you catch this passion. So don't make the mistake of thinking that you are limited to what you're already passionate about. There was nothing that you were born with that dictated what you would love. There is definitely some nature, but there is a very heavy dose of nurture. And in fact, a majority of the inclination comes from nurture. There was a study done once in which middle school students were given some math problems based on baseball. The baseball players in the group eagerly dug in and, not surprisingly, outscored their non-baseball playing classmates in the exercise. But the test was actually not about baseball at all. The questions were basic math problems, but they were put in the context of baseball. There's no reason whatsoever that the baseball fans should have done better. This should tell us something very important about passion. You also are more likely to outperform your colleagues when you get into what you consider your wheelhouse. But I want you to think about is why. You probably think this is because you're smarter or more prepared or more equipped to do what you're doing. But I would suggest it may just be because you're more passionate. And further, your passion may well have come not because you had talent for the subject from birth. It may just because you stumbled across the person that you caught this passion from. And that should really make you question the areas that you've told yourself that you're not talented. Another thing to think about is how easy it is to become passionate about something new. You literally just need to have the right exposure to the right person to have a brand new appreciation or love for something. I would even argue that you have an infinite amount of passion, that you could basically always gain new interests. You just need to have the exposure. I find that one of my favorite things to do is talk to people about what they know best. People often have a job or hobby or a skill that they love to talk about. If you take some time and ask them about it, they will often give you a deep and interesting overview of their expertise. I feel like interesting conversations with people are some of the high points of my life. You'll sometimes be shocked at the things people know, and you can build amazing bonds with people by talking to them about things that they love. Here's another corollary of passion being contagious. Have you ever considered what passion you could be sharing with others? When you realize how easily you can be influenced by others, it becomes clear how much you can influence them as well. I don't tend to think I influence people as much as I think they influence me, but logically we should realize that it may be happening all the time. If you're a leader, it's important to think about how you convey passion to your people. You can have an enormous impact by simply being open with your passion for things. Do you have a project or an initiative or a regular task that matters to you and your organization? Tell people. Let them know why it matters. Let them know what they are doing has an impact. Just knowing why they are doing something can significantly change the quality and focus of their work. Talking about things you love is not always easy because honestly, people prefer talking about themselves to listening. But be aware that when you have an audience, telling people about something you love can be one of the most compelling stories you can tell. And you may find other people are interested in the same things, or at least want to hear more. Plus, it can get others to want to share stories about their passions as well. Understanding what makes you interested in subjects can be very enlightening. Realizing what got you interested in something in the first place can completely change your view of yourself as well. Maybe it isn't that you had some natural talent for something versus a completely different topic. Often, it's just exposure. And knowing this can really change your perception of yourself, your abilities, and what you might be capable of that you've never considered. These are things I've learned. Thanks for listening.